Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome back to another video, another day, another dollar with your boy. We're going to be breaking down all of our contracts here. We're going to start off looking at the SPY and the triple Qs. We're going to be looking at the larger time frames. We're going to be looking at our monthly, look at the weekly, break it down into the daily, just kind of give you guys an update on what is occurring there. Then we'll look at our intraday with the ES futures contract and the NASDAQ future contracts. We'll look at those, see what happened today as kind of a unique situations happening, what I think could be either a turnaround event or a potential slowing of trend that we've been seeing here recently to the sell side. Discussing it in the room earlier, Paul was thinking it was more or less, just kind of a rest period potentially for the sellers before they give it one more push to the downside, which would, before the month end here, would be putting our monthly down. So let's go ahead and get into it. If you guys do not mind, please leave a like down below if you enjoyed the content. And here we go. So monthly, still in a balance, right? We're not going to say the monthly is breaking out of balance to the downside until we close this monthly candle. If we close above 433 by the end of this month, we're just going to say the monthly got stretched. Then again, once October rolls in, if we take out this candle here in October, then the monthly will firmly be down at that point, because you can only stretch it so many times before you have to say the monthly is down. So monthly is once right here teetering between being down on the monthly and still remaining in balance, right? So come, October, we'll see where we're at. So we're looking to close above 433 if you're a buyer, right? You want to keep this monthly within a balance. If we do, end up stretching this out a little bit further, the monthly will be down. And if we don't close above that 433.01, we will be down. And then your next monthly target would be the low of 416. Okay, keep that number in mind, 416.79. That is June's low. All right, keep that number in mind. All right, let's go ahead and look at our weekly. Our weekly is one time framing down, right? We've been one time framing down now 2 weeks in a row. We broke out that weekly balance. And we've been one time framing down 2 weeks in a row now. We took out last week's low, not by a whole lot, but we took it out. We still continued the trend to the downside, but we took out that weekly balance low of 439.97 after coming out of that double inside week to the downside. Like I said, if you were somebody that took that trade at 42 on the short side, you were definitely covering some here, but before you reach your next downside target, okay? From a weekly standpoint, would be that 425, okay? 425 on the weekly would be your next downside target, and then ultimately that 416 would be another target. We're going to mark these as some targets here on our weekly chart. We're going to name this one target 1, and we'll name this one target 2, just to see if we get to these points, if the monthly does end up being down and we do continue to one time frame down on the weekly, just meaning we're sending lower lows and lower highs. So we're going to look to see how we close out the end of this month. But weekly, one time framing down. Only way we stop the one time framing is if we take out last week's high, which right now seems highly unlikely, but there's still several days left in the trading week, as this is only the start of it. Now let's go ahead and look at our daily, shall we? Let's go ahead and look at the daily. Daily has been one time framing down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days in a row now. All right, daily's been one time framing down 5 days in a row. All right, we do have this upside gap above us from the gap down that we had. So we have this upside gap here. We'll go ahead and highlight that. We have that upside gap. So the question is, the way we closed today, we look at the extension below previous lows here. Not much extension there. Not much extension below this previous low either, right? Not very much extension. And then today was a rather strong close for the short-term buyers. All right. Now, don't get me wrong, we are still trending lower, but once we get into our 30-minute intraday time frame, you'll see what I mean by potential slowing and a reversal coming on the way to, where we might potentially put ourselves back into at least a 4-day balance initially, and then look to, fill the gap on the upside coming out of that balance to the upside would be, very positive for the buyers. Now, the reason I wanted to say keep that 416 mark in your mind, which was June's low, look at where the 200-day moving average is at. The 200-day moving average is at 418.30. All right, June's low, which would be the next monthly target on the downside if the monthly just did decide to turn down and confirm with lower lows on the monthly, then you're targeting 418, 416, that June monthly low. That's right around where the 200-day moving average is located. And it's not impossible, right? Look at the way we just moved off the highs, right? We've moved off the highs so far 5%. From today's low to there to the 200-day moving average is another 2% move, okay? We just did 5% off the highs, okay? We've done, since breaking out of this balanced low, we did 3% just from breaking out of a daily balanced low. So who's to say we can't continue to push lower here another 2 to 3% and backtest that 200-day moving average, okay? Volume today wasn't that great, not above average, just below. Lackluster day, small range, not a whole lot going for buyers to an extent other than the slowing down of the extension below previous day's low. All right, so keep that in mind while we're looking at our daily time frame. But sellers still remain in control until something changes, which would be stopping the one time framing down. So if tomorrow we take out today's high, we'll put ourselves back into an initial 4-day balance, and then your target on the upside would be filling this gap and coming out of balance to the upside. Target for the downside would be coming out of balance or continuing to one time frame down and targeting that 200-day moving average for your daily time frame. Let's just continue to wear our hard hats and see where the market takes us. Let's go ahead and look at the Qs. Let's go ahead and look at the Qs for a second. Something interesting is happening here in the Qs. All right. Not quite down on the monthly just yet. We have gotten near the monthly balance low at 354.71. Right, got near our balance low here. Do we hold and then begin to rotate up? Do we continue to stay in a balance on the monthly? Those are the questions we have to ask ourselves, right? If they decide to push lower and take out 354.71, your target would be June's low of 346.66, okay? So far, balance rules are in play for the monthly, okay? We have gotten near that monthly balance low and we are holding it, okay? You can observe that by looking at the weekly time frame. You can see it even better on the weekly time frame, right? The weekly within that monthly balance, you can see how we've gotten near it. And so far, we're finding a little bit of a balance, a little bit of a buy pressure here, right? So if I were to highlight from that wick low there across the balance low and turn it green, right? People will be like, oh, that's a demand area, right? People are buying here, looking to rotate up and get back to 387.98 or even these previous highs here at 379, okay? So potential demand area here for the Qs. A lot of people are watching this balance low here, seeing if we hold it, if we take it out, you should see some stops begin to run and push lower. The weekly, however, is one time framing down. Same thing just as the SPY, right? Came out of that double inside week to the downside. Weekly is one time framing down. The only way that changes if we take out last week's high, which is a very slim chance. Not impossible, but a slim chance so far. There's a lot of work to be done on the daily and then the intraday that in order for us to push up higher. So right now, weekly one time framing down continues to one time frame down, targeting that June low coming out of that monthly balance low of 354. Let's look at our daily. The daily's a little bit tricky. The daily was a little bit tricky. we put ourselves back into a balance come Friday. We put ourselves into a balance by taking out the previous day's high by just about a few pennies, it seems. But we do have this upside gap here, right? Same as SPY. We do have an upside gap. So right now, we were in a balance. We took that balance low out of 357.54, came back into it. So if you want to say it's still balanced, you can. For me, I'm going to say the daily is down. The only way we put ourselves back, I will confirm that we're back into balance, is if the buyers tomorrow take out today's high, putting us back into an initial 4-day or 3-day balance. And then same thing as the SPY, you would be targeting coming out of balance to the upside and filling that gap. All right. Q's 200-day moving average is much lower at 328.82. So they would have to have a pretty monstrous sell-off to get down to that point. About an 8% sell-off, which would be a pretty significant sell-off in general, because we're already off the highs by about 6%. So to come back down by, a total of 17%, right, would be pretty catastrophic. 13%, excuse me, would be pretty catastrophic to an extent for any buyers, right? But got to pay attention to our intraday time frame. So daily, one time framing down for the Qs until we take out today's high. That is going to be the case, but same concept. The extension below previous day's low there really has not been much to it. All right, now let's look at our intraday timeframes and just kind of review what happened. I only took one trade today. I'm just going to try to, as far as my trades go, try to take some knocks from the bat. Just try to get a bunt or two, get on base. Not try to hit any home runs. Just try to get on base and kind of recover the account a little bit, as we've been over these last 2 weeks have been really rough on the loss size. Things are changing a little bit. Can't trust certain market generated information, and something that I didn't take into context as well as whenever I was buying on pullbacks that where I got hurt over the last 2 weeks, or just I wasn't taking the larger picture into context. Like when I got hurt on the long side on Friday, I wasn't putting the context right. I was like not completely putting the whole picture. The weekly was down, the daily was down. We had a gap above us. Why on earth do I think these buyers are going to be that strong? They're weak-handed, so I should not expect it to hold, right? So just keeping that in mind, and we're just going to try to get on base going forward. So today we ended up taking out the previous day's low. All right, we took out Friday's low, took out last week's low, 43.5725. So we took out that low, pushed down pretty good, didn't get the overnight low, and then came back into the previous day's range. Now, taking a short against the price probe, the first 2 times worked really well, actually, as we pushed up off the open, shorted it, came down in B period, and then we just kind of chopped around down here for a little while, eventually coming back into the day's range, taking out the initial balance high, and then targeting the overnight high, which was at the time right around 43.79. So just kind of a slow grind up all day today. Ended up with a 10Y point of control. After taking out the previous day's low, we end up going out with a 10Y point of control. Today's low, the day's high. We had a potential afternoon pullback low until L period. Late in the day, spiked lower, taking out that 43.6275 low there, which is where I got long against, right? So we had that pullback here. 43.6275 was that low. I got long in the next time frame against that low. I was long at 65, thinking, okay, I'll put my stop just below 43.62. I'll have it at 43.60, risk a couple points to the downside. If I get stopped out, that's it. We'll look to, at least rotate back up towards the highs. And as we did, I got out of the trade for about 36 points across 4 accounts. So roughly really good day just off of one trade. Okay. So we're just going to try to make some base hits like that once again. So the idea was to hold that as a potential afternoon pullback low. We had the 144 simple moving average at the time that we pulled back against. Where was it? Right around here. We were holding right around it, so I was getting long to rotate up towards the highs, and the trade worked out just beautifully. Then, you could have bought against it once more, rotated up, and then obviously that trade didn't work out the last few time frames of the day, as once we stopped out, that was it, right? Then we had that late push to the upside, eventually setting a new high on the day late in the day. So we go out with today's high, today's low, and a 10 wide point of control. Now, this is what I was talking about, potential slowing of the trend. I tend to find whenever we begin to develop these wide points of control after we've had a large move down or a large move up, we're going to eventually end up in some sort of balance, right? So one thing we'll look to see is first signs would be stopping the one time frame down, putting ourselves back into a balance by taking out the previous day's high, and then having value begin to go from lower to overlapping to higher or completely higher, and then getting to some type of unchanged, and then eventually rotating up higher, getting into that gap, right? That's what we're looking for in the future. Or is this just a slow session? We'll put ourselves back into a balance, accumulate maybe another wide point of control, and then roll over and continue business as usual to the downside, right? Those are things we got to keep in mind. But from my experience, after a large move down like we've had, we tend to have those large points of control that develop, and then we'll end up putting ourselves back into an initial balance where we'll need more market generated information to determine whether we come out to the upside or to the downside of that balance. So for the upside targets, we have the day's high, 43.8025. Above that, you have the high of day from Friday at 43.99. Above that, afternoon rally high, 44.0775. And then where the gap starts, 44.1850. Downside, we have 10 wide point of control, 43.67. Then today's low, 43.50. As far as any other downside destinations, I do not have any on this contract. Now let's look at the Qs. Same thing, right? Same thing. Same thing, different numbers. Took out the previous day's low, pushed down pretty good. We got these other downside destinations that I had left on the contract. We got that 79 or 792.75 low of day back from August 18th. We got that afternoon pullback low from August 18th. And then we got Friday's low of 852.50. So after getting all those destinations on the downside, that's about all these sellers really wanted to do was push it below. They did not end up getting the overnight low. And then same concept, we just rotate back into the previous day's range and chop around, except for the Qs got a much larger point of control by one time frame, 11 wide point of control versus a 10 wide point of control for the ES. Same concept. We're looking to see, is this a slowing in the trend? Do we put ourselves back into a balance and then eventually go and target the upside gap? So we go out with today's high at 14,939.25. We have an 11 wide point of control at 14,891.75. And then today's low of day at 14,782.50. I deleted that just a second ago. Or readjust that. Boom. So, and then your other upside target, 14,978.75, 15,27.50, where the gap starts. So with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we'll catch you in tomorrow's session. Hope you all have a wonderful day. See you.